Caleb Morgan never planned to stand out that Saturday morning. He had gone to the county fairgrounds with an ordinary purpose: check the cattle, maybe buy a few supplies, greet some old friends, and then head home before noon. But the moment he stepped out of his truck and felt the warm breeze carrying the scent of hay and barbecue, something in his day shifted, even though he didn't yet know it. The fairgrounds were busy, filled with familiar faces and friendly chatter. People moved between booths, laughing, bargaining, calling out greetings. Children ran past with cotton candy stuck to their fingers, and ranch hands shouted playful jokes at one another. Caleb had grown up attending these small-town events, and they always felt like home, comfortable, steady, predictable. But today's schedule had something new. The county's youth outreach program had arranged a work to stay auction. Local ranches and farms could sponsor young adults who needed a stable place to live and learn responsibility. It wasn't a real auction, no one was being sold, but it allowed people to bid to take responsibility for a participant for the summer. They would offer room, board, structure, and guidance. It was an attempt to help struggling kids find their footing before life pushed them too far off their path. Caleb had heard about it. Of course, everyone had. Some people supported the idea. Others whispered that it was too risky. These young people had been through hard times, and not everyone believed they could change. Caleb wasn't planning on joining the bidding. He respected the program, but his ranch was quiet, peaceful, and well-organized. Bringing in someone who might cause trouble wasn't something he thought he was prepared for. But as he walked past the crowd gathering near the small wooden stage, he felt drawn to take a closer look. There, sitting apart from the group, was a girl with dark hair tied in a loose braid and a posture that spoke louder than words. She wasn't talking to anyone. She wasn't smiling. She had her arms crossed and her jaw set, as if daring someone to come close. Even from a distance, Caleb could sense the storm she carried inside. He didn't know her name yet, but people around him did. "That's the Hale girl," someone whispered behind him. "Sierra," another person added in a low voice. Caleb glanced sideways, listening without meaning to eavesdrop. "She's trouble," a man muttered. "Ran away 3 times. No one could keep her for more than a week. One ranch almost sent her back the same day," a woman said with a shake of her head. "Too stubborn. Too wild." Caleb felt a pinch in his chest at those words. Wild. Trouble. Untamed. People said that so easily, as if the girl wasn't standing just a few feet away, hearing every word whether she wanted to or not. He watched her tap her foot impatiently, pretending not to care, but her fingers tightened slightly on her arm. The reaction was small, but he noticed it. Whatever her history was, she wasn't a problem. She was just a young person who had learned to protect herself, the only way she knew how. Still, he wasn't here to get involved. He reminded himself of that and turned away, heading toward the livestock pens. But as he moved through the crowd, he kept glancing back at the girl, even when he told himself not to. The auction soon began. A cheerful announcer stepped onto the stage and thanked everyone for supporting the program. One by one, the participants were introduced. Some smiled nervously. Some tried to appear confident. Some barely looked at the audience at all. Families, ranchers, and business owners placed their bids, offering summer-long opportunities with hope in their eyes. Caleb wasn't surprised that many participants were chosen quickly. The community could be generous when it wanted to be. But as the last few names were called, one person remained seated at the edge of the stage: Sierra Hale. She didn't try to stand. She didn't smile. She didn't even pretend to be hopeful. Instead, she stared straight ahead, her eyes daring anyone to take a chance on her. The announcer cleared his throat, clearly unsure how to handle the tension. "Next, we have Sierra Hale." The crowd shifted. No one stepped forward. No one raised their hand. Sierra's jaw tightened as the silence stretched out. For a moment, Caleb saw something in her eyes, not anger, not arrogance, but a deep, tired acceptance. It was the look of someone who had learned not to expect anything good. Caleb didn't intend to move, didn't intend to raise his hand, but his arm went up quietly, almost on its own. A few heads whipped around. Caleb? Someone whispered. Caleb Morgan? People stared as if he had just announced he was moving to the moon. Caleb felt a little warmth rise to his ears, but he kept his hand steady. He didn't know Sierra's story, but he recognized something familiar in her, the kind of hurt that didn't show on the surface but shaped everything underneath. Maybe he saw a bit of himself, or maybe he simply believed that no one should be left sitting alone on a stage full of people. The announcer blinked in surprise but cleared his throat. Ah, yes. One bid from Mr. Morgan. Any others? The crowd was silent. Sierra's eyes snapped to Caleb, sharp and confused. She looked him over from his old boots to his sun-worn hat, trying to figure out his angle. He wasn't smiling, wasn't trying to impress anyone, wasn't even looking smug. He just waited, calmly. The announcer repeated the call, but still no one else bid. Going once, going twice, sold to Mr. Caleb Morgan. A light applause filled the air, polite but cautious. Some people raised their brows at him, others shook their heads. A few whispered that he had no idea what he had just signed up for. Caleb didn't pay attention to any of them. Sierra stood slowly, as if unsure whether she had a choice. Her expression wasn't thankful, if anything. It was defensive. She didn't like surprises, and Caleb could tell he had become a very unwelcome one. As she walked toward him, her boots scuffed the dusty ground, and her shoulders remained tense. She stopped a few feet away and looked up at him with a mixture of suspicion and challenge. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but the uncertainty beneath it was clear. Caleb nodded once. Maybe not. But I did. Why? She asked, narrowing her eyes. He shrugged gently. Everyone deserves a chance, even if folks don't see it yet. Sierra blinked at that, her expression flickering almost too quickly to notice. For a heartbeat, she looked almost unsettled. Compliments weren't something she was used to, especially not one spoken so calmly and without any hidden meaning. She crossed her arms again, pulling her walls back up. I'm not easy to deal with. I can handle hard work, Caleb said. I don't listen well. Then we'll work on listening. I don't like being told what to do. Most people don't, he replied with a small smile. She looked at him as if he were speaking in a language she'd never heard before. Gentle firmness, steady patience, and absolutely no judgment. Caleb didn't expect her to trust him right away. He didn't expect the summer to be simple, but he felt something quiet settle in his chest. A certainty that bringing her to the ranch was the right thing to do. Behind them, people still watched, whispering to one another about the rancher who had bid on the untamed girl. Caleb ignored all of it. He didn't see a wild girl. He didn't see a problem. He saw someone who had spent too long hearing the wrong stories about herself. Sierra didn't know it yet, but stepping off that stage was the beginning of a new chapter, one that neither she nor Caleb had planned for. As they walked toward his truck, a distance between them but a thread of connection beginning to form, the warm summer air carried a feeling of quiet possibility. And though neither of them spoke, both sensed that something important had just begun. The ride to Caleb's ranch was quiet. Almost too quiet. Sierra sat stiffly in the passenger seat, arms folded, her gaze fixed on the passing fields as if they held all the answers she needed. Caleb didn't push her to talk. He sensed that if he tried too hard, she would shut down completely. Instead, he let the silence stay gentle, not heavy. The truck hummed along the road, and sunlight shimmered over the golden fields stretching toward the hills. Every few minutes, Sierra glanced at him from the corner of her eye, studying the man who had unexpectedly placed a bid on her. She still didn't understand it. Everyone else avoided her too much trouble, too much attitude, too quick to lash out when she felt cornered. But this man didn't seem bothered by any of that. He was calm, almost too calm, and that unsettled her more than anger ever could. The ranch came into view after a long gravel driveway lined with tall trees. It wasn't enormous, not like some of the big operations in the county. But it was tidy, well-kept, and peaceful. Fresh painted fences ran along the pastures. Horses grazed lazily, tails swishing. A few cattle moved slowly near the far side of the field. Everything about the place felt steady, warm, lived in. Sierra's chest tightened. She wasn't used to calm places. They made her nervous, because calmness never lasted in her life. Caleb parked the truck near the barn. Before he could get out, Sierra opened the door herself, stepping onto the gravel with quick movements. She scanned the area, as if preparing to identify every possible escape route. Old habits, Caleb guessed. He joined her outside and waited until she finally met his eyes. "You can take a look around," he said softly. "There's no rush to start anything." Sierra shrugged, trying to appear uninterested. But her eyes kept drifting to the horses. One of them, a paint mare with a soft face, lifted her head and watched Sierra with calm curiosity. "You ride?" Caleb asked. She hesitated. "A little. Rube. A little." Her answer was too casual to be true. Something in her posture told him she had more experience than she let on. He nodded, choosing not to challenge her. "When you're ready, we can see which horses you get along with." Sierra didn't answer, but her shoulders relaxed just a little. Inside the ranch house, things were simple but comfortable. Wooden floors, framed photos of ranch life, a stone fireplace, and shelves filled with books and old cowboy hats. Caleb showed her the room she would stay in, a small guest room with a bed, a dresser, and a window overlooking the pasture. "It's yours while you're here," he said. "If you need anything, let me know." Sierra stepped inside and touched nothing, as if afraid she might break something by accident. She stood near the window and kept her back to him. "It's fine," she said quietly. Caleb nodded and left her to settle in. He knew better than to hover. Over the next hour, Sierra unpacked slowly. She didn't have much, just a small bag with clothes and a few personal items. She placed them neatly in the dresser, though she didn't know why she bothered. She rarely stayed anywhere long enough for unpacking to matter. Later that afternoon, she walked outside to find Caleb working near the barn. He greeted her with a friendly nod. "Feel like helping with a few chores?" he asked. Sierra lifted her chin, ready to push back, but something in his tone wasn't demanding. He wasn't giving orders, just offering a chance. "I can try," she said. Her words weren't confident, but they weren't closed off either. Caleb began with simple tasks, filling water troughs, checking fences, gathering tools. Sierra followed quietly, copying his movements without complaint. She watched everything carefully, as if trying to read between the lines of his calm nature. It confused her how patient he was. He didn't rush her, didn't criticize, didn't act annoyed when she made mistakes. At one point, she dropped a bucket and groaned in frustration. "Sorry," she muttered, expecting him to scold her. But Caleb simply picked up the bucket and handed it back with a small smile. "Happens to everyone," he said. "Buckets have a mind of their own." Sierra blinked, caught off guard. No one ever brushed off her mistakes like that. Most people reacted with annoyance. But Caleb didn't seem to expect perfection. He just wanted her to keep trying. As the sun drifted lower in the sky, they reached the horse paddock. Sierra's steps slowed. A tall black mare stood near the fence, watching them with bright, alert eyes. She was beautiful but restless, pawing at the ground as if she had more energy than she knew what to do with. "That one's Raven," Caleb said. "She's young and still learning. A handful some days." Sierra approached slowly. Raven lifted her head and moved closer, sniffing Sierra's hand. The connection happened almost instantly, quiet, gentle, curious. "You like her?" Caleb asked. Sierra nodded before she could stop herself. She reminds me of someone, she murmured. Caleb didn't ask who. He watched the girl and the horse quietly, noticing the way Sierra softened when Raven nudged her arm. It was the first unguarded moment he had seen from her. She stroked the mare's muzzle with careful fingers, her expression thoughtful. She listens to you, Caleb said. Sierra gave a small, almost shy smile. Animals are easier than people, she replied. I get that, he said. For the next few days, their routine slowly took shape. Every morning, Caleb woke early, cooked breakfast, and let Sierra join, if she wanted. Sometimes she did. Sometimes she didn't. When she skipped it, he simply left a plate for her on the counter. He didn't comment, didn't pressure her, but she noticed the effort every time. Work around the ranch became a way for them to communicate without too many words. Sierra swept stalls, brushed the horses, helped mend small sections of fence, and carried feed buckets. She didn't always do things perfectly, but she did them with growing focus. Still, she tested him intentionally or not. One morning, she refused to follow a simple instruction about organizing tax supplies. She insisted she had her own way of doing things. Caleb didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He simply showed her why his method worked better for keeping everything safe and easy to find. He never used phrases like, "You have to," or "because I said so." He explained, demonstrated, and waited. That confused her more than anything. She expected authority disguised as kindness. She expected patience that broke under pressure. She expected to be told she was wrong. But Caleb's patience didn't crack, not even once. Eventually, she sighed and rearranged the supplies as he suggested. You happy now? She asked in a flat tone. Caleb chuckled softly. Are you? Her eyes widened slightly, as if she hadn't expected that question. She didn't answer, but she didn't complain again. Bit by bit, she began to relax into the routine. She didn't smile often, but her shoulders loosened, her voice softened, and she no longer looked ready to run at every moment. During one afternoon break, Caleb found her sitting on the fence rail watching Raven trot around the paddock. You're good with her, he said. She's just like me, Sierra replied, keeping her gaze on the mare. She doesn't want anyone telling her what to do. That doesn't make her bad, he said gently. Just means she needs someone who understands her. Sierra's eyes flicked toward him, searching his expression. He wasn't hinting at anything. Wasn't trying to be clever. He simply stated the truth. For a moment, Sierra didn't know what to do with the softness of his tone. Compliments always felt strange. She had learned to brace herself for the negative, not kindness. She looked away, pretending not to care, but her fingers curled around the fence rail a little tighter, as if holding on to something she wasn't ready to admit she needed. Days passed, and though Sierra still kept a bit of distance, she no longer felt lost or out of place. There was something grounding about the rhythm of ranch life. The sound of horses chewing hay, the rustle of wind through the tall grass, the calm presence of a man who never raised his voice, all of it slowly chipped away at the fear she carried. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Sierra stood outside watching the sky turn shades of gold and pink. Caleb approached quietly, not wanting to startle her. Long day, he said. Yeah, she replied softly. But, good. He smiled at her answer. She kicked the dirt lightly with her boot. This place, it's different. How so? She thought for a moment. It doesn't feel like trouble is waiting around the corner. Caleb nodded. Sometimes all people need is a little peace. Sierra didn't say anything, but her eyes softened at the horizon. She wasn't ready to trust fully, wasn't ready to open completely, but for the first time in a long while, she wasn't preparing to leave. Something inside her was changing, gently and quietly, like a sunrise she didn't see coming. And Caleb noticed, not because he was trying to fix her, but because he cared enough to pay attention. By the time the stars began to appear, Both of them understood, though neither said it, that the walls between them were not as strong as before. And this was only the beginning. Sierra woke up the next morning with a surprising feeling she actually wanted to go outside. The ranch had started to feel familiar, almost comfortable, though she would never admit it out loud. She put on her boots and stepped into the cool morning air. The sky was pale and soft, and the world felt quiet, as if it was waiting for her. Caleb was already working, as usual. She found him near the barn, repairing a gate hinge. He looked up when she approached, giving her one of his calm smiles. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied, trying to sound casual. He noticed how she stood a little closer than before, not hiding behind her usual distance. This change felt small, but to Caleb, it meant progress. "Want to help me check the horses after breakfast?" he asked. Sierra nodded without hesitation. She didn't need to think about it. Spending time with Raven had become the part of the day she looked forward to the most. The mare didn't judge, didn't expect perfection, and didn't ask questions Sierra didn't want to answer. Raven simply existed beside her, and that quiet companionship was something Sierra treasured more than she realized. After breakfast, which Sierra almost joined on time, they walked toward the paddock. Raven lifted her head immediately when she saw Sierra. The horse trotted toward her, stopping just a foot away. "She likes you," Caleb said softly. Sierra stroked Raven's neck. "Maybe she just feels sorry for me," she joked lightly. Caleb raised an eyebrow. "Horses don't feel sorry. They trust who they want to trust." Sierra didn't reply. Compliments still made her unsure. They felt like clothes too big for her to fit into. But she kept her hand on Raven, letting the mare's warm breath and steady presence calm her. Caleb watched them for a moment before opening the gate. "I was thinking," he said, choosing his words gently, "maybe you'd want to help train her a little." Sierra froze. "Train her? Me? You've got a good touch," he said, "and she listens when you're around." "No, she doesn't," Sierra said quickly, shaking her head. "I'm not a trainer. I mess things up." Caleb leaned calmly against the fence. "Everybody messes things up, but I see how she reacts to you. It's different." Sierra looked at Raven, noticing how the mare's ears were turned toward her, waiting. There was a quiet connection there. She felt it but didn't trust herself to believe in it. "What if I do something wrong?" she asked in a small voice. "Then we fix it," Caleb replied simply. "Together." Those words made her chest tighten. No one in her life had ever told her that mistakes could be repaired instead of punished or used against her. It took her a moment to breathe normally again. "Okay," she whispered. "I can try." Caleb nodded. "That's all I ask." For the next hour, he guided her through simple steps, approaching the mare with confidence, leading her gently, encouraging her to walk in circles on the lead rope. Sierra followed his instructions carefully, watching both Caleb and Raven closely. At first, her hands trembled a little, but Raven responded calmly, almost patiently, as if she understood Sierra was learning. Soon, Sierra relaxed, and her natural instincts took over. Her voice turned steady, her steps firmer, and her posture more assured. "You're doing well," Caleb said as she guided Raven around. Sierra looked up, startled, then gave a tiny smile before quickly hiding it. "She's the one doing all the work," she insisted. "That's not how it looks from here," Caleb replied. As she continued working with Raven, something in Sierra began to open. She felt a lightness she hadn't felt in years. She didn't feel judged. She didn't feel on edge. She felt capable. But the peace didn't last uninterrupted. Later that afternoon, Sierra decided to get on Raven's back for just a moment, even though Caleb had stepped away to fetch a tool. She didn't plan anything reckless, she simply wanted to feel what it was like to sit on the mare, nothing more. She placed one foot in the stirrup and gently swung her leg over. Raven shifted suddenly, surprised, and Sierra lost her balance, slipping sideways. She landed softly in the hay. Not hurt, but shaken. Raven backed up, confused, but calm. Caleb returned just in time to see her sitting on the ground. "You okay?" he asked gently, kneeling beside her. Sierra looked away, embarrassed. "I wasn't trying to do something bad. I wanted to try sitting on her. I didn't think she'd move." Caleb didn't raise his voice or look upset. Instead, he offered his hand to help her up. "It's all right," he said. "You're not in trouble. I just want you to stay safe." Sierra hesitated before taking his hand, as if she wasn't used to accepting help. When she stood up, she kept her gaze low. "I should have waited for you," she said softly. "You don't have to be scared of making mistakes," Caleb replied. "Just let me guide you through the steps next time." His calm reaction confused her deeply. She expected frustration or disappointment. That was how every adult in her past reacted when she did something without permission. But Caleb wasn't like them. He never turned a simple mistake into a reason to pull away. He dusted off a bit of hay from her sleeve. Careful and respectful. "Come on," he said gently. "Let's try something easier for today. Take to be and day. With things warnef. Take to be and day. Take to be and day 4. Take to be and day. Take to be and day." Sierra nodded, though she still felt a knot in her stomach. She wasn't used to being treated with patience, not the patient kind that felt warm instead of cold. Over the next several days, something shifted between them. Sierra began talking more, not about big things, but small details. She asked questions about how the ranch worked, about the horses, about the way Caleb trained them. Her curiosity showed itself more openly, and Caleb encouraged every bit of it. One evening, while they fed the horses, Sierra finally shared something personal without meaning to. "My past foster homes didn't like when I asked questions," she said, tossing hay into the feeder. "They said I talked too much." "Well," Caleb said with a gentle smile, "I like questions. They show you want to understand things." Sierra paused, surprised. No one had ever told her that before. She kicked a pebble lightly with her boot. What if understanding things doesn't help? What if everything still goes wrong? Caleb leaned on the stall door, thinking carefully. "Then you learn from it," he said. "Learning doesn't stop things from going wrong. It just helps you make better choices next time." Sierra stared at him for a long moment. "You make everything sound simple." He chuckled softly. "Simple isn't the same as easy." She smiled again, small, but real this time. Another day, while brushing Raven, Sierra found herself speaking without thinking. "I used to get blamed for things I didn't do. So, after a while, I stopped explaining myself. It was easier to stay quiet and pretend I didn't care." Caleb didn't interrupt. He didn't push for more details. He simply listened with calm focus, making her feel seen without putting her on the spot. "It must have been hard," he said. Sierra shrugged weakly, but her voice wavered. "You get used to it. People shouldn't have to get used to that," Caleb said softly. Those words pierced through her, deeper than she expected. For the rest of the day, she carried them with her like a warm ember she didn't know how to hold. She began spending more time outside, more time with Raven, and more time near Caleb, even if she pretended she was simply completing chores. The ranch felt different now, less like a job and more like a place that understood her. And then came the evening that changed everything for her. Raven had been restless, and Sierra was brushing her down when the mare nudged her shoulder gently and rested her head lightly against Sierra's arm. Sierra froze, overwhelmed by the unexpected affection. She had received kindness from animals before, but never in a moment that felt this deep. She whispered, "You really trust me, don't you?" Raven breathed softly, and Sierra felt her eyes sting. She blinked quickly, wiping her face before any tears could fall. Caleb approached quietly, watching the tender moment. He saw the emotion Sierra tried to hide, but he pretended not to notice to give her privacy. "She trusts you because you've shown her patience," he said softly. "And patience builds trust." Sierra swallowed hard. "I'm not patient." "You are with her," Caleb replied. "More patient than you think." Something warm filled her chest, something she didn't know how to name. It wasn't fear, and it wasn't sadness. It felt like hope, but softer. She looked at Caleb, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you always so—" Caleb smiled gently. "Because everyone deserves someone who believes in them." Sierra's breath caught. No one had ever said something like that to her. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as broken as she thought. The walls she had built for years didn't fall in a single day. But each moment she spent on the ranch, each gentle word from Caleb, each quiet connection with Raven, made those walls thinner, softer, easier to breathe through. And slowly, without even noticing it, Sierra found herself changing. Not because someone forced her to, but because someone finally gave her space to grow. Sierra hadn't planned on changing. She hadn't planned on staying either. In her mind, the ranch was supposed to be temporary, just another place to pass through until things got complicated, and she was asked to leave. That was the pattern of her life, and expecting anything different felt unsafe. But slowly, as days turned into weeks, the ranch began to feel like something she didn't want to lose. She still didn't say it out loud, not even to herself, but her actions revealed it. She woke up earlier than before, often beating the sunrise. She checked on Raven without being asked. She took on chores that weren't assigned to her, sweeping the barn aisle or folding blankets neatly, as if creating order around her made her feel steadier inside. Caleb noticed every small change, but he didn't comment too much. He knew that calling attention to her growth too soon might make her pull back again, so he let her find her rhythm quietly, offering guidance only when she needed it. One morning, he found her teaching a younger volunteer how to tie a proper knot on the lead rope. The boy listened carefully as Sierra explained, her voice patient and calm. Caleb leaned against the doorway silently, watching with quiet pride. When the boy ran off to finish his task, Sierra turned and caught Caleb smiling at her. "What?" she asked, looking defensive. "Nothing," he said softly. "You did well." She rolled her eyes lightly but couldn't hide the small smile tugging at her lips. She was getting better at letting herself feel proud, even if she still tried to hide it. Later that afternoon, she and Caleb were stacking bales of hay in the barn loft. The warm air smelled of dust and sunlight, and the old wooden beams glowed in the afternoon light. Sierra worked hard, lifting each bale with strong, steady movements. "You've gotten stronger," Caleb said as he passed her another bale. "I've always been strong," she replied. "You've gotten steadier," he corrected gently. She paused, thinking about that. Steady. It was a word she had never connected with herself before. But here, in this place, she did feel more grounded, less scattered, less lost. When they finished the work, Sierra sat on the edge of the loft, legs dangling over the side. Below them, the horses moved lazily in their stalls. Caleb sat beside her, leaving a respectful space between them. "This place is quiet," Sierra said, her voice thoughtful. "It is," Caleb agreed. "Some people say it's too quiet." She shook her head. "Not me. I like hearing the wind and the animals. It's the kind of quiet that makes you feel safe." Caleb glanced at her gently. "I'm glad you feel that here." Sierra picked at a piece of hay stuck to her sleeve. "I didn't think I'd ever feel safe anywhere." Caleb didn't push her to explain. He simply waited, giving her room, if she wanted to share. "People always said things about me," she continued slowly. "That I couldn't listen, couldn't stay, couldn't be trusted. After a while, I guess I believed them. You're proving them wrong every day." Caleb said softly. She looked at him with a mix of surprise and disbelief. No one had ever spoken about her like that, not with calm confidence, not with steady kindness. A few days later, something happened that tested all the trust she had begun to build. She was brushing Raven when Caleb entered the barn with a letter in his hand. His steps were slow, thoughtful, and his expression carried a kind of gentle seriousness she didn't know how to read. "Sierra," he said. "We need to talk for a moment." She stiffened immediately. Those words had always meant trouble in her past. She set down the brush and backed away from Raven, her chest tightening. "What did I do?" she asked quickly. "Nothing," Caleb said. "You didn't do anything wrong." Her shoulders remained tense. "Then why do you look like that?" He held the letter out slightly. "Your father contacted the program." The breath left her chest all at once. She stared at him, frozen. She hadn't expected that name to resurface in her life. Not here. Not now. Not when she had finally started feeling stable. "He wants custody," Caleb said gently. "The program wanted me to know." Sierra's legs felt unsteady. She leaned against the stall door, her eyes unfocused. "Why?" she whispered. He never cared before. Caleb didn't answer. He had already read enough to sense it wasn't about affection or concern, but he didn't want to plant any painful ideas in her mind. Sierra's thoughts spun in circles, panic rising like a tide she couldn't fight. "He can't take me back," she said quickly. "He can't. I don't want to go." Caleb moved a little closer, careful not to overwhelm her. "You don't have to go if it's not safe for you. The program will listen to your concerns." "But he'll say I'm lying," she said, voice trembling. He always did. Caleb placed a steady hand on the fence between them, not touching her, but close enough for her to feel his presence. "You're not alone this time," he said. "I'll speak for you. I'll make sure the truth is heard." Sierra stared at him, her eyes shining with confusion and fear. "Why would you do that for me?" "Because you matter," he said simply. "Because you deserve someone who stands up for you." Those words gently reached places inside her she had long closed off. For the next few days, she moved with a mix of anxiety and uncertainty. She tried to keep up with chores, but her thoughts were tangled. At night, she lay awake, worrying about being taken from the one place that felt like home. Caleb stayed steady throughout it all. He didn't push her to talk if she didn't want to, but he made sure she knew he was there. He contacted the program, explained the situation, and arranged for her to speak with a counselor who understood her history. He gathered statements from neighbors who had seen her progress. He made sure the focus was on her well-being, not on what anyone else wanted. One afternoon, while filling the water trough, Sierra approached him hesitantly. "You defended me," she said quietly. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," Caleb replied peacefully. "But why?" she asked again, her voice breaking a little. He looked at her kindly. "Family isn't just about who you're related to. Sometimes it's about who shows up, who cares, who listens." Sierra swallowed hard, emotions building behind her eyes. "I don't know how to handle that," she whispered. "People don't stay for me." "I'm not going anywhere," Caleb said. Those words struck her deeply, settling into her heart like a warm light she didn't know how to accept. She didn't cry, not in front of him, but something inside her softened in a way she couldn't hide. When the program finally made their decision, they ruled in Sierra's favor. She was allowed to choose where she wanted to stay. Her hands shook when she heard the news. She looked at Caleb, stunned. "Really? I get to choose?" "You do," he said. "And if I choose to stay here, that's okay with you?" "It's more than okay," he said. "You're welcome here for as long as you want." Her breath hitched, and for the first time since arriving at the ranch, she didn't hide her smile. It was bright and real, warming her whole face. In the days that followed, Sierra seemed to bloom. She laughed more freely, even teasing Caleb lightly when he misplaced something. She spoke with the ranch hands, like a real part of the team. She handled Raven with confidence, guiding her with soft cues, earning the mare's full trust. Every small victory, every successful training session, every friendly conversation felt like a step toward a future she never imagined having. For the first time, she wasn't surviving. She was living, learning, growing, and Caleb saw it all. He didn't say much about how proud he was, but the pride shone in his eyes whenever he watched her. She wasn't the untamed girl the town had whispered about. She wasn't a burden or a problem. She was a young woman discovering her strength, her worth, and her place in the world. One evening, as the sun set and cast golden light across the ranch, Sierra stood beside Caleb at the fence line. Raven grazed peacefully nearby, and the air was soft with the sound of crickets. "This place changed me," Sierra said quietly. "No," Caleb replied. "You changed because you gave yourself a chance. The ranch just gave you room to do it." Sierra looked up at him with gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For believing in me," she said. "For seeing something in me I didn't know was there." Caleb smiled gently. "It was always there. You just needed a place where you could shine." They watched the sun dip behind the hills, both feeling the same truth but letting it rest comfortably between them. This wasn't the end of Sierra's journey. It was the beginning of the life she was finally strong enough to claim. The morning of the horse show arrived with a soft golden sunrise spreading across the sky. Sierra woke earlier than usual, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and nerves. Today wasn't just any day. Today, she would ride Raven in front of people who once doubted her, people who never believed she could achieve something calm, focused, and meaningful. And she wasn't riding to impress them. She was riding to prove to herself that she had grown into someone strong, steady, and hopeful. She dressed carefully, choosing simple, clean jeans and a fitted shirt Caleb had bought for her when he learned about the show. Sierra had kept the shirt folded neatly, waiting for the right moment to wear it. Today felt like that moment. Outside, the ranch was quiet, bathed in warm morning light. Birds sang gently, as if cheering her on. Sierra walked to the barn where Raven waited, already alert and watching the doorway as if she sensed this day was different. Caleb was there too. He had arrived even earlier, brushing Raven until her coat glowed. When Sierra walked in, he turned with a calm smile that made her nervousness soften. "She's ready," he said. "I hope I am," Sierra replied, letting out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "You are," Caleb said with quiet certainty. Sierra stepped forward, placing her forehead gently against Raven's muzzle. The mare breathed out softly, as if offering comfort. And in that small, tender moment, Sierra felt something settle inside her peace. The drive to the showgrounds was quiet but warm. Caleb didn't overwhelm her with advice or questions. He simply talked about the weather, the fields, and the horses they would see. His steady voice helped keep her from getting lost in worry. It reminded her that whatever happened today, she wasn't facing it alone. When they arrived, the fairgrounds buzzed with soft excitement. Horses whinnied, people chatted, and the warm smell of dust and hay filled the air. Sierra looked around nervously, feeling old fears creep up. Crowds had never been her favorite. Attention made her uncomfortable. But Caleb stood beside her, calm and encouraging. "Just breathe," he said gently. "It's just you and Raven out there. The rest is background." She nodded. His words grounded her. Soon, it was her turn to enter the arena. As she led Raven toward the entry gate, her footsteps slowed. She felt the weight of all the eyes waiting to watch her. For a moment, her old doubts whispered in her mind, what if she messed up? What if she disappointed Caleb? What if she wasn't ready? Caleb must have seen the hesitation in her posture. He stepped closer, speaking softly but firmly. "You don't have to be perfect. Just be you." The girl who worked hard. The girl who earned this moment. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. "Okay," she whispered. With one final pat on Raven's neck, Sierra rode into the arena. The world outside the ring faded. She didn't see the crowd anymore. She didn't hear the whispers or the rustle of programs in people's hands. All she felt was Raven's steady heartbeat beneath her legs and the warmth of the sunlight across her skin. She guided Raven through the simple pattern they had practiced: circles, straight lines, gentle turns. Raven listened beautifully. Each cue answered with calm confidence. Sierra felt herself relax, letting the rhythm of the ride carry her. Every soft step Raven took reminded Sierra of how far she had come. She remembered the girl who had arrived at the ranch, tense and guarded. The girl who didn't trust anything or anyone. The girl who believed she wasn't meant to belong anywhere. Now, here she was, sitting tall in the saddle, guiding a horse who adored her, in a place where she finally felt seen for who she truly was. When she finished the pattern, the crowd applauded politely. Sierra didn't expect a huge reaction, but she didn't need one. She felt proud, simply for trying, truly trying. And when she rode out of the arena, Caleb was waiting with a smile that held more meaning than any ribbon could. "You did wonderful," he said. Sierra blushed, looking away shyly. "I didn't fall, at least. You did more than that. You rode with heart." Those words made her chest warm. They spent the rest of the afternoon watching other riders, laughing softly at small mistakes, admiring beautiful horses, and enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. Sierra noticed how natural it felt sitting beside Caleb now, like she belonged in moments like these. Like she belonged with him. On their way home, the sky painted itself with soft pink and orange streaks. Sierra rested her head against the truck window, tired but content. Raven traveled quietly in the trailer behind them, munching hay. Everything felt right. Back at the ranch, Caleb helped unload Raven. Sierra walked the mare to her stall and removed the saddle with gentle hands. She brushed Raven lovingly, whispering, "You did so good today. Thank you." Raven rested her head against Sierra's shoulder, as if returning the appreciation. Later, Sierra stepped outside to find Caleb leaning on the fence, watching the sky deepen into evening. She walked over and stood beside him, her heart full but unsure how to express it. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For the show?" he asked. "For everything," she replied. "For giving me a home. For believing in me. For not giving up when I pushed everyone away." Caleb looked at her with soft eyes. "Sierra, you're the one who did the hard part. You opened up. You learned. You stayed. But you made it possible," she insisted gently. Caleb thought for a moment. "You know," he said softly, "I didn't expect you that day at the auction. But now, I can't imagine this place without you." Sierra felt her breath catch. Those words settled deeply inside her. She looked out over the ranch, the land glowing under the last light of day. The horses grazing peacefully. The barn warm with familiar sounds. This was more than a place now. It was her home. A home she had chosen. A home that chose her back. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They just stood side by side, comfortable in the silence they once feared. Finally, Sierra said in a whispered voice, "Do you think I can stay here for a long time?" Caleb smiled gently. "As long as you want. There's always a place for you here." She felt a rush of relief and happiness. "I want to stay," she said. "I really do." Caleb nodded. "Then stay." As night settled fully, Sierra felt settled too. She wasn't the scared, guarded girl from the past. She wasn't the untamed girl people judged without knowing. She was someone stronger now, someone capable, someone trusted, someone loved in quiet, steady ways. She didn't have every answer yet, but she had something better. She had a future she wanted to live. Later, before going inside, Sierra turned to look at Caleb once more. He stood by the fence, the moonlight soft against his face. She felt a warmth bloom in her chest. Not fear, not confusion, but a quiet affection. She was just beginning to understand. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. And as she walked toward the house, Caleb watched her with the same soft fondness. In his heart, he knew she had changed his life, just as much as he had changed hers. She wasn't the girl from the rumors anymore. She was part of the ranch, part of the home. And, in the quietest and most natural way, she had ridden right into his heart.